What's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. This is Living in the Red, a show for people who live in red states but don't agree with the red state agenda. I'm Cory Bradford, your resident history content creator, and I'm here with my co-host,
Cody Z, former journalist and unapologetic truth teller.
Unapologetic truth teller. See, she tells the truth and she does not apologize for it.
Not at all.
Well, that's what we're going to be doing a lot during this particular episode. We're going to be telling the truth a lot about Kamala Harris, former Vice President Kamala Harris. I'm saying her first name right, am I?
Kamala?
I say Kamala. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay, because I'll be worried about that because like when she first hit the scene, I know I was butchering it. I used to call her
Kamala.
Kamala is what I think I used to call her.
That's what Donald says.
No, Donald just be like Kamala. He just be saying crazy
He's
stuff.
So
He just I don't even. I know we're gonna have to talk about him, but I hate even thinking about half the stuff he be saying. But
yeah.
But Kamala Harris, she's got this new book out. I think it's called 107 Days, and it's about the 107 days
that she was campaigning.
Yeah. And it was the shortest presidential campaign in U.S. history, if I'm not mistaken,
or modern history.
Or modern. Let's say modern history.
I don't know, when is modern history start and end? Like I don't ever know what they mean when they say that. What does that mean?
It depends. Like most of the time, we're talking like the last century or so. So like 1920 to today, generally speaking.
Okay.
And when you think of like modern campaigns, this is the history nerd in me. When you think about like modern campaigns, it's kind of like FDR, like Franklin Roosevelt. That's kind of like where modern kind of starts.
This is where it starts.
Yeah, that's like 1930s.
Okay.
So, yeah. So past 90 years, and that would be Kamala Harris's campaign would be the shortest in the last 90, 100 years at least.
Right.
And she basically in this book talks a lot about just her entire experiences during that 107 days and the support she got, the support she didn't get. And that's what we're going to talk a little bit about, especially at the top of this particular podcast. Now, we haven't read the book. I want to put that out there.
No, we have not read
We haven't read the book, but
we're going to see. She's coming to Birmingham.
Yes, she is coming to Birmingham
in like 2 weeks.
Yep.
And we're going, right, Cory?
Where you're going for sure.
And you're going too. I accidentally bought 2 tickets with like me and some of my line sisters. We were in a group chat and we were like, okay, how are we going to get these tickets? And I accidentally bought an extra one thinking that, I don't know, we were like literally scrapping for the last few because they ended up adding an additional show.
Yeah.
So we were scrapping for like the last few that were available. I ended up buying 2. I only need 1.
Yeah.
So Cory's going to buy the other one. He doesn't want to commit for whatever reason.
I will see in about a week or so what my schedule is looking like. But
now, if you miss out on this ticket, then that's on you.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens. But I do want to go because I'm interested in hearing her in person. But we've both been listening to a couple of additional podcasts. I know you listened to Joy Reid and some of the things that she was saying about the book.
Yeah.
Just the other day, I was listening, or actually just today, I was listening to Rachel Maddow's interview with her on MSNBC.
Yeah.
And so we basically I feel like we got a lot of the I guess you say meat and potatoes of the book and kind of what she's talking about. And a lot of people in the Democratic Party, like the establishment, are kind of like, they're catching flack with her over some of the stuff that she's saying because basically a lot of them are saying that she makes the Democratic Party look bad. But my personal opinion...
So who has said that so far?
Well, it was one of the guys, I believe he was an aide or a strategist for Hakeem Jeffries. I know he was working for Hakeem Jeffries. I can't remember his name, but he was working for Hakeem Jeffries. I'll put it on the screen if I find it later. But I know that was the one, if I'm not mistaken, on the Political article that you shared with me, where he was basically saying that a lot of people in the party feel like that she's making the party look bad and making herself look bad.
The party looks bad already.
Oh, well, they make themselves look bad all the time.
Yeah, like, I mean, okay. Go ahead.
Well, that's what I'm just saying. Like that's what they were saying, that she was making the party look bad, making herself look bad by just kind of exposing a lot of dirt.
And I think they said, and I think I may have sent this to you. Somebody said that she, if she's wanting to have a place in the party in the future, she's ruining it. Or she was going to be the face of the party, but now she's not. I was like, y'all were never going to make her the face of the party because you guys never supported her. And she talks about that lack of support in her book. So let's stop acting as if she is doing something wrong by telling her truth. Now, the problem that I have had with Kamala on some of these interviews that she's been having, I didn't get to hear all of the interviews she did with Rachel Maddow, but I did listen to what she talked about with Joy Reid. And again, we haven't read the book, but some of the things that, she was basically saying, why would Joe Biden call me the night of the debate to basically question my loyalty and question whether or not I'm going to make sure that his legacy is intact? Like, that was what he was most concerned about, more so than her performing well at the debate in order to make sure that she is able to win the overall election. And when she was getting questioned by Joy Reid, and I think a few other people, I just can't remember who they were, she starts to cower and kind of walk back some of what she says. And I'm like, okay, so who called Kamala and threatened her? Because why all of a sudden do you want to start walking back on things that you actually said in the book? If you were making statements about what people did and how it made you feel, you should be able to talk about that on your book tour without feeling like you have to back down or walk back your statements and stand up in that.
Yeah, there are certainly some contradictions in the book. One of the things she said in the Rachel Maddow interview was she said that in the book, she talks about the fact that Joe Biden didn't seem like he was up to the task of campaigning. Like he was just getting too old. He was just getting too tired. He just didn't have the energy in him to campaign. But then she also says in the same breath, but he was totally competent enough to be president.
I think she was referring to his term, like those first 4 years.
Well,
I don't think she was referring because somebody, and I don't remember if it was Joy or Rachel because I've seen clips, but Joy is the only interview that I've seen in full.
Yeah.
But they asked her, do you think that Joe Biden should have resigned early on before, should he have not even tried to run for a second term in the first place? And she does not directly answer the question.
Well, she commented on that in this interview as well, where she said in the book that when looking back, she feels like she should have played more of a role in basically convincing him to step down earlier than he did. But at the time, she didn't want to because she saw that as a selfish act. She thought that her telling him, okay, maybe you're not up for this would be too beneficial for herself. But to me, that's assuming that if, say, he dropped out early and they would have had an actual real primary, she's assuming a lot. She's assuming she would have won that primary, and I don't think she would have.
Right.
But to comment on
you don't think she would have won the primary?
No.
Okay.
No, not even close.
Okay.
But
who else do you think would have been on that ticket?
I think Newsom. I think Gavin Newsom from California would have more than likely been the nominee. I think
Pete Buttigieg.
Maybe, but
and not to say that he would win. I'm just asking who would be on the
maybe
ticket.
The nominee. Yeah, I would say maybe him. I would see him more as a vice presidential candidate. But yeah, maybe okay. I could see him. I can see a couple of people that if it was a full primary, and with primaries you just never know. I mean, nobody really expected Obama to beat Hillary in 2008, so anybody could have emerged that spring if it was a wide open race. But I definitely don't think she would have won the primary. And but she was kind of assuming that she would have in saying that one of the reasons why she didn't encourage Joe Biden to question whether or not he could do this was because she felt like that would be too, I guess you could say advantageous for her.
Let me just say, and I think I may have said this on the last pod, and I don't remember, but I think that what we are underestimating so much in Kamala's work as VP is that at the end of the day, she is still looked at as a Black woman.
Sure.
And what we have learned is that during her time as VP, she was not given the full respect or range to do her job. And so much of what I hear in her responses, so much in what I am hearing about what she is saying in this book about how she's having to question herself or question what she should and should not do. And even as she goes on this book tour, it's all giving me little bits of triggers here, because what I am hearing is another Black woman talking about, I do not know how to exist in the workplace. Even in in the second highest office in the country, I do not know how to exist because I am not given the respect. I am being told what I should and should not do. I've had high overturn in my office. There have just been so many things that Kamala's had to face, both in her role as VP and when she campaigned for president, where she just did not know how to be. I don't think was ever given the full range to really, run a campaign that she wanted to run. And even knowing how to work alongside her boss. She questioned. I mean, I would think that after working 4 years along with Joe Biden, that you would know whether or not you should be, or if you are confident enough to approach him and say, hey, I don't think that you running for a second term is going to be beneficial to this country.
But they didn't have a relationship like that.
And that's the problem. And that is my point.
Yeah.
Why would you not have... Joe Biden was VP for 8 years.
Yep.
He should understand what it means to have a healthy relationship with your boss, who then was President Obama.
Yep.
So you should be able to lay the groundwork to then have a healthy relationship with your VP during those 4 years in your office. Why did that not happen? That falls back on Biden. Anything that I've learned in my workplaces before is that anything that does not work or anything that is not cohesive, it comes from the top down, period.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, the reality of it is, and this is a controversial thing that I'm about to say, but a lot of people on the right, a lot of Republicans feel that Kamala Harris was only chosen because she was a black woman, because Joe Biden said, I'm going to choose a black woman, and he chose her.
Yeah.
But I actually feel like Joe Biden also thought like that. I think he saw Kamala Harris as, this is a black woman who's going to make me look good, who's going to make me look like I'm down with the, with the culture.
With the blacks.
Yeah, and I don't think he actually respected her enough to really value her opinion and what she could bring to the job.
That is what I am saying.
That's basically what you're saying.
That is what
I'm reiterating what you're saying.
You are reiterating what I am saying. I am saying that Kamala is doing, or she has experienced exactly what all black women have experienced in the workplace. It's somebody saying, we see your capabilities, we like your work ethic, we think that you have great ideas, so we're going to put you in this position. Now you shut the fuck up now that you're in the position. You can't do shit.
Basically.
And we're not going to give you any kind of respect. We don't care about your degrees. We don't care about the work that you have done. We don't care about your resume. We don't care about your ideas. We just need you here as a placeholder. We knew to a degree that was the case when he picked her as her VP in 2020, right? Because they said black women are the backbone of this party. We owe it to them to bring somebody who was qualified to be in this seat. And don't get me wrong, Kamala was absolutely 100,000,000% qualified for that job. But when you have people, when then she's now running for president and people are questioning her qualifications, that should have been shut down immediately by multiple people within the party, from her own boss and from the DNC themselves. They should have said, because Nancy Pelosi, as was said in the Rachel Maddow interview, they picked out clips from the book, or excerpts from the book, showcasing some of the Democrats who did not necessarily jump on board automatically. And Nancy Pelosi was one of those people, and she said, we need to have a primary first.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, we just said that this is going to be, or we already knew this is going to be the shortest run in modern day history, right? I question whether or not a primary would have been effective, because we're talking about 3.5 months. I don't know. Yeah. I don't have the answers to that.
Yeah.
I don't know all the historical context to be able to answer that question.
Yeah.
But if people are coming and saying that this woman is not qualified to be president because of what she did or did not supposedly do as VP, the party and everybody in it should have shut it down immediately and should have been able to say, Kamala is more than qualified because of not just her educational background, but because of everything that she's done in her political career. And that did not happen.
That didn't happen. Yeah. She talks about in the book, she basically called all these different Democrats, different leaders, and this is what you're basically referencing. And she talks about how some of them were really excited. People like Pete Buttigieg, and I know I always butcher his name, but I call him Pete B. That's what I call him.
Buttigieg.
Buttigieg. You know what I'm saying it right?
Okay. Buttigieg.
Buttigieg.
It's a butt, but it's boot.
But it's not butt, it's boot.
But it's spelled like butt.
Yes, I know that.
Okay, how it helps me remember how to say it when I think about how to break it down in syllables.
Pete B was the one who, came out and said, you're going to make a good president and all this. And I think Mark Kelly, the astronaut senator out in Arizona, a lot of people like that who said, okay, we're good with this. We're down with this. But a lot of really prominent Democrats, as you mentioned, Nancy Pelosi wasn't really down, felt like we should have a primary, which I sort of agree with that. But like you said, the timetable just really wasn't long enough to have a full primary with every state involved. That would have been very difficult. I don't know how they would have pulled that off.
I think it would have been
in less than 100 days. Yeah,
I think it would have been worse off, because then
very chaotic.
We're cutting into the days even more so while Trump is leading in the polls. So like I just don't. Yeah.
And then there were others, like Obama himself even said to her, hey, we're excited for you, but we gotta think about some stuff and look into some things, and we'll get back with you. I mean, he eventually did come out and stomp for her. Let me just say this about
President Obama.
He was a little hesitant.
I like Barack.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do too.
For the most part.
I do too. I mean, for the most part.
There's some. I don't have any problems with him or any one thing that he did. I'm in a place right now, if I'm being honest, where I am completely reframing the way I think about this nation and the way it exists in the world. So that's no shade, I guess.
Okay.
Oh, President Obama.
Okay.
But I mean, he does play a role in that. But I say that to say, every once in a while, President Barack Obama will do something where I'm like, that white side is coming out real strong. And I be like, I know Michelle did not clear this statement, this tweet, this phone call, this letter. I know Michelle didn't see none of that, because she would have grabbed him by the ear and been like, come bring your ass back. Let me talk to you. Because she was the one who, even when he was in office and he was not wanting to I believe, give gay people the right to marriage, she was the one who kind of called him out on that, because he was very hesitant
originally
on that
he was
issue.
Not, in favor of that.
So there's been many times where Michelle has had to kind of like pull him in and be like, hey, this is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And I don't think, and he sat there and said, Michelle and I know Michelle was like, don't put me in that. I ain't got nothing to do with that. That's you.
Yeah.
Why you put me in that? And now she calling me out in this book.
Yeah. I think Obama, he sees his position as something beyond, like, I think he definitely takes the Black community and our plight into consideration. But I think he sees himself as someone who has to think, I would say, beyond that. I feel like he has to think of all Americans. And so he has to think of things in this way that goes, I guess I would say, beyond race. That's just me guessing.
Yeah, he acts like a white liberal occasionally.
Well, he's a biracial liberal, so maybe that's why.
But I mean, I've had this conversation plenty of times.
But I get what you're saying when you say a white liberal. I mean, I get what you're saying.
Yes, he's biracial, but I think we could agree that Barack identifies as Black.
Well, yes, of course. Yeah, and his wife is Black, his kids are Black. I get that. But I mean, I get what you say when you say white liberal. Like, there's this way that white liberals kind of come off where it's like they act like they're down for the culture. They act like they're down with the plight. But then when it's not convenient for them to do so, a lot of that, we saw a lot of that in 2020 with the whole George Floyd stuff. It was like, oh, we're gonna protest and I can't breathe, and then soon as that was over with, it was like, okay, we moving on and we don't really care about what's going on with y'all.
Full 180 right now.
Oh yeah, right now it's the total opposite of what it was 5 years ago.
5 years later. Yeah, it didn't take y'all long.
I feel like they're gonna bring back Aunt Jemima and all that soon. I feel like they just you know what? Let's bring it all back.
I mean, and at this point, I really don't even care. I don't even care. Be overt with your racism so I can know. That's fine.
I prefer that too, actually.
Yeah, let me know.
I actually do prefer that.
Thank you very much.
Yes, I prefer that. But I thought it was also interesting what Bernie Sanders said to Kamala, because Kamala called Bernie and was like, hey, Bernie, because Bernie holds a lot of weight with the party because he represents that more further to the left flank.
The more socialist.
Getting into the Democratic socialists and stuff like that. So she calls Bernie up and say, yo, Bernie, I'm running, what you think? And Bernie was like, look, just talk about the working class. Don't just talk about abortion all day long. And I know when you heard that, you had a comment to make when you heard that Bernie Sanders had made that reference or made that remark.
Yeah, I mean, it was sexist.
You feel like that's a sexist statement?
He wouldn't say that shit to Gavin Newsom or any other man. He would not say that to any other man, period.
It's a sexist remark, but do you think it's an untrue remark? Like, don't you think? Of
course not.
Yeah, okay.
Of course not. But why do you think that you need to tell her what she need to run on?
I get what you're saying.
Okay, be quiet.
Valid. That's valid.
Like, every once in a while, I like Bernie Sanders, but again, this is where I have to be like, he's still a white man. Because who are you to tell
say that to her
what she need to be running her campaign on?
Yeah.
And then to say, make sure you don't just talk about abortion. What the fuck make you think that she just only gonna talk about abortion?
Why assume?
Okay, because she's a woman?
That? Yeah.
Okay.
That's never really been a huge talking point of hers either. I mean, she's obviously pro-life. She's obviously pro-choice is what I mean.
Yeah.
But she's never been like it's like not been a huge thing for her.
I mean, if I'm being honest with you, I don't think that there is any one thing that Kamala has ever really focused on. I do think that her campaign did a good job at highlighting the needs of the working class, which, I think that what Bernie said for the most part was on brand. He's always advocating for the working class. Mm-hmm. But that comment about, just don't talk about abortion, I just felt like he wouldn't ever say that to a man.
You're right. He wouldn't say that to Gavin Newsom if he was running. And speaking of Gavin Newsom.
And I think a lot of people also would have assumed that she would have, and I did too. I think a lot of people would have assumed that her platform would have been ran similarly to that of Hillary. And Hillary did talk a lot about reproductive rights.
Yeah.
And that's because we knew that Roe v. Wade was on the table at the time.
Yeah. Just been overturned.
So I just felt like he was being
sexist. I can see that. Now, like I said, I think it's true, but I don't think that's like the first thing that should come out of your mouth. Like, because apparently that's what she makes it seem like that's the first thing he said to her right out the gate, which is a bit that's a little off.
Yeah.
But I do agree that you have to focus on more than just those sort of singular issues if you're gonna win the presidency. But we talked about Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom, apparently, when she told him that it was gonna be her as the nominee, he was just like, yeah, I'll get back with you. He was like hiking or something, like, yeah, I'm hiking right now, I'll get back with you, and he just never called her back. But that's interesting because they actually have a very interesting working relationship because they're both from California. Mm-hmm. If I'm not mistaken, Gavin Newsom was the mayor of San Francisco around the time she was DA.
Or the DA.
She might have moved on to Attorney General by that point, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
But they've run in similar circles. They're those California folks. So they've run in similar circles, and it seems to be a little bit of there's a little something there.
Yeah, I can't pinpoint Gavin Newsom, and he's very much a stark white liberal in my opinion. Very much
for the audience. Can you describe what you mean when you say white liberal? Because like I feel like you mean earlier. Something very specific by that.
Well, like you said, not down for the cause for real, not wanting to be inconvenient. Like they claim that they Black Lives Matter. Yeah, I cannot believe what happened to George Floyd. But you're not willing to do the work or really willing to do anything to make yourself uncomfortable in order for there to be real progress.
And you feel like Newsom fits that.
Yeah, I think all these white folks do. Any white person who does not claim to be conservative, I have yet to meet a white liberal who was really willing to make themselves uncomfortable for the progress of us. And I would love to, there's not too many white people I talk to on a regular basis. So any of y'all who may see this, feel free to call me and call me out. I would love to know about the things that you have done. I just have not seen it. Yeah. I was hired at a public radio station 9 months after George Floyd was killed. So, public radio and the whole, any I would say, space that is pretty liberal leaning was still very much on this. Oh, we want to highlight people of color, and we want to hear your stories, and we want to make sure that your voice is heard. Okay, hired me and then gave me all sorts of shit in the workplace.
Did they talk just like that?
Talk just like that. Like get out my face. You are lying and playing in my face right now. So, yeah, I have not seen it.
Yeah, I think there is a fair amount of...
And not just white people. I would put people of color in that, too. There are a lot of people who move here, Asians, Hispanics, even some natives who I feel like will do what they have to do to assimilate to whiteness as much as they possibly can to see whatever progress they can have. And they alienate black people so many times. I mean, we saw that happen, what was it, earlier this year? When the ICE deportations started happening and there was all the protests that were happening in LA and stuff, and they were calling on black folks. And it's like, we always show up and do what's necessary, but y'all don't show up for us. Y'all did not vote in alignment with us. And now you want us to come out here and be on the front lines and doing the work for y'all. So that's essentially what I mean when I say white liberal.
Yeah, and when it comes to those kind of protests, black people can't afford to put themselves out there on the front lines because we know what's going to happen to us.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not they looking for an excuse.
Arrested, terrorized, possibly killed, being on the front lines for y'all.
Yeah. Yeah,
we're gonna get targeted before y'all do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. And like, I get what you're saying. I mean, I used to work in political organizing for mostly left-leaning candidates and entirely left-leaning candidates, and so I saw a lot of that. I mean, yes. Did I meet some white people that I felt like genuinely cared? Yes, but I do agree with you in the sense that they still didn't put themselves in a position to sacrifice something for someone else. It's like they said they would, and it's like they thought they would. But when push came to shove, it was never really a time where they were going to be like historically speaking, when I think of like somebody like John Brown, which if people out there know John Brown was back in the 19th century, literally put his life on the line to try to end slavery. I can't think of a white equivalent of that from the past 40, 50 years. Someone who's literally willing to put everything on the table so someone else can be free. No. I can't think of an example of that. And so I feel like for a lot of the white liberals who may be listening, I feel like that's something that in our culture, we see a lot of you, say you want to help and say, you're not racist and everything like that. And we appreciate that. But at the same time.
Can I just give a couple of examples too?
Sure.
Like I have a friend who I met years ago. I would say very liberal, went to UCLA Berkeley, or not, is it UCLA Berkeley?
UC Berkeley.
UC Berkeley, thank you. I knew I was getting it wrong. Grew up in California and ended up dating and marrying a man who was in the military and was a Trump supporter. Now, whether or not he was a Trump supporter after 2020, I don't know, because this was like 2017 when I was friends with her, and I was just that's when I had to start side-eyeing her, because I was like, I thought we was on the same team. And when I knew that she was marrying this guy, I was just like, we can't be, we're not completely on the same team.
Yeah.
More recently, I was in grad school and there was a girl I befriended. She lives in California as well. And she was just like, yeah, me and my husband don't talk politics because he's a Trump supporter. And I was like, so you mean to tell me you married this man 20 something years ago, have 4 kids with him, and there is just, you guys just have decided 20 plus years ago that you guys are just never going to talk about politics. Like you chose to stay in that relationship, that marriage. And that is a privilege and a disservice to the people who are trying to progress in this country, right? Because only, in my opinion, only white people are able to have that privilege where it's like, yeah, me and my husband do not align politically, and so we are able to, but we're still able to be in a relationship. I don't know too many black people who are able to operate like that, or really too many other groups of people of color who are able to do that.
Yeah.
And so, but now, especially, I would have maybe excused that 30 years ago. Maybe. But today, I don't understand that. And you're at this point, you marrying this man who more than likely is the breadwinner in your household because they are a white couple. To me, you are holding back the potential progress that can be happening because you're enabling this. I mean, we know that men operate off of a few things, and sex is one of them. And you are having sex with this man. And saying it's okay that you are essentially a Trump supporter when this man is going to be this man I'm referring to as Trump is going to be taking away your rights.
Yeah, but I think you gave two very different scenarios.
Yeah, they're a little bit different.
Like the first scenario, the woman who was supposed to be real liberal and then she ends up marrying a Trump supporter. She knew what that man was. She knew what he was about. And so she willingly, entered in that. The other case is a little different though, because I mean, would you expect someone to divorce their significant other if they're a Trump supporter?
No, but they've always not been on the same page politically, from what she told me. So the fact,
but that would have been very different 20 years ago. Because Republicans were different 20 years ago. I mean, they were still on some bull crap, but I mean, just like a Bush Republican versus a Trump Republican is a Bush Republican is basically almost a liberal.
I understand and agree that they're very different. Again, I think even if you were to say to a black couple today, if they were a Bush supporter, even then, I think some of us would be looking at them crazy too, right?
I knew black Bush supporters.
But I'm saying, would you have married them?
Would I have married
and procreated with them?
A black? I probably would not have married a strong Bush supporter. No,
but a moderate one. Either you support them or you don't.
Well, but what I'm saying is back then things were a little different.
I don't care.
Because but Bush, see, that's what I'm saying. Like a Republican 20 years ago, I could look at them and be like, I disagree with you, but you're not like in favor of straight up fascism.
But what I'm saying
the way it is right now, like today, I agree. I would not even want to. I would not marry a Trump supporter.
I hear you and understand you, but what I am saying, because the context of this conversation is we were talking about white liberals, and what I'm saying is for black people, I can't speak for other groups of people. I can't speak for Asians, Hispanics, Native people, or even LGBTQ community. But what I know for black people, for the most part, is you marry somebody that you are politically aligned with, even if that was 40 years ago.
But you feel like that always happens? Because I've seen several examples.
With black people?
Yeah.
No, I don't think it always happens. I'm just saying that I think that is more common in
more
our
common.
culture
more
than
common.
it is for others. I think more people took that seriously because we know what it means to be black in this country. So so to marry somebody who probably thinks opposite of whatever your political belief is, you probably were going to be drawing the line at that and being like, actually, I can't fuck with you.
I can see back in the day, like even like in the 90s, I could see a lot of black
women. Not just, I'm saying in any point in history, I don't think that historically black people were okay with marrying somebody who was of different political belief. I think with white people, that is far from their mind when they are dating.
Yeah, because the stakes aren't as high for them.
Exactly. That's my point. I think when if I'm dating somebody, a conversation of politics is going to happen within the first 3 dates for sure.
But you're a very political person. I don't think the average person thinks like that. I don't think the average person is like that politically considerate.
Maybe.
I just feel like just in general. Now, and I think it's different today because I think back then politics was so much more policy orientated. It's like, well, what do you think about, I don't know, this bill or something like that? Now it very much is, freedom versus not having freedom.
Right. But let me just say this. As a black woman who went to a HBCU, yes, I'm more, I guess, politically inclined. I read more about politics than probably the average person. But for me and my homegirls or the other black girls that I know, even if they weren't as politically inclined as I was, we were still having these conversations. And not just because I brought them up, but because of the things that are happening around us. Yeah. And so I do think, I would say for college educated black women, I think that those conversations would come up anyway.
Yeah, I agree. So going back to the Kamala Harris, because I know that was what we were originally talking about, and then we started talking about these white liberals. But going back to Kamala Harris, I guess the biggest takeaway that I have from this book is that it doesn't seem like the Biden administration or just Biden's team gave her the support that she would have needed to really be able to successfully run that campaign.
Right.
There certainly seems to have been some sort of rift or some sort of wall there between those two teams, and that definitely showed. But one thing to kind of comment on what you were saying earlier about Pelosi, I do think that the stakes were just too high with Project 2025 and what Trump was threatening to do. I feel like it should have been a full rallying point behind her.
It shouldn't have been a question.
Because it was just like, look, even if she's not the right person, we can't afford to lose this.
Well, I remember, like, I'll never forget watching that first debate with Joe Biden and Trump and being like, what the fuck? And there being the immediate conversations within the party about, okay, what is everybody going to do? And everybody was having this question as to who would be the better nominee. And in my mind, because I want to say there was maybe like a 10-day lag. I think it was announced on 4th of July or the day after. It was a little
later when he actually dropped out.
Yeah. So it had been about a week, I would say 7 to 10 days before there was an announcement that Kamala was going to be the nominee. Everybody should have had at least a basic unification of, okay, great, Biden is out, you're the nominee, great, what do we need to do? Regardless of if you thought that she should have been it, everybody should have known that Joe wasn't it. So regardless of who they chose, I feel like everybody should have been unified, especially understanding that there was less than 4 months left before the election.
Yeah, but I feel like a lot of people in the party, like not the actual like politicians and everything, but I feel like a lot of the people who like vote Democrat or lean left, I feel like they all felt cheated because it was like, well, we didn't get a say-so in this. And we have been telling you for months that Joe Biden wasn't it. We have been telling you back in January, back in December of last year that he wasn't it. And so I feel like they kind of felt cheated in that process because it would have been like, look, maybe we would have chose Kamala, maybe not. But we didn't even get a chance to really choose because Joe decided to stay on the ticket and he decided not to bow out earlier. And so I feel like that was a dissatisfaction within the party, within just the people who normally vote Democrat, and that was going to be something very difficult to overcome.
I think that is a huge point of, I guess I would say, I think that's a huge point as to why the Democrats lost, why Kamala lost, and why the party is still in such disarray today.
There's a lot of reasons why they lost.
Well, I mean, my point being that there should have been, again, unification around, okay, Joe Biden should not run for a second term. He needs to know that he does not need to run for a second term. We need to all be on board that he's not going to do a second term. And then start organizing and figuring out who the other nominee is going to be.
You know, because technically they could have ran against him. Like, just because, I mean, because it was still an open primary. Like, they could have, like, serious Democrats could have run against them.
They're too steeped in respectability politics. Everything is about, you know, especially Joe Biden's had the career that he's had where he's been in politics for what, 40, 50 years. Yeah, 40, 50 years. He's wanted all his life. You know, one thing I didn't realize until he became president was that he literally was vying to be president his entire life. I mean, it's the equivalent of wasn't that Queen Elizabeth's son like waiting to be king? I mean, Joe Biden had been waiting all his whole life to be president.
He tried to run several times before.
And basically was told, "Hold up, buddy, it's not your time yet."
Not it.
Yeah. So but part of that process, in my opinion, and this is, in my opinion, part of the problem with U.S. politics in general, if you still want to call it politics at this point, is that there's not enough humbling. Joe Biden should have understood, I'm 80-some years old, and let me go sit down. I've had my opportunity to be president. Let me go continue this work.
Yeah, because he got to do it. You got to actually be a president. You didn't have to keep being president.
You did not have to keep doing it. And look at what you did. You literally handed over democracy to Donald Trump.
You undid everything you set out to do when you ran the first time.
And he initially said he was not going to run for a second term.
He did.
So you let your ego get the best of you. And how you let your ego get the best of you when your brain's shutting down?
And that goes back to my point where Kamala said that he was not strong enough to run a campaign, but he was strong enough to be president. It's like, how? Being president is the toughest job on earth.
I really think that she was saying that he was strong enough to
in 2021? Is that what she meant?
Well, I think she was saying, my understanding of what I heard was her saying that during his time as president, he was able to do the job effectively. That was what I understood.
But not in 2024? Because he's still president when he was supposed to be campaigning.
I think he started shutting down around 2024. 2020 into 2023.
Maybe a couple years before that.
Well, maybe. But I think that there was a strong enough team in place to still make sure that he was able to get the job done.
I agree with
that.
But
the same team of people, I don't know what it's like to work in the White House. So, it's very easy for Cody to say this, somebody who ain't never worked a day in politics in Birmingham, Alabama, to say, y'all should have told Joe Biden to sit his ass down 2 years ago. It's very easy for me to say that.
Yeah.
But I don't know the inner workings of the White House, and what I'm assuming you can't just say those things. But Jill should have said something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and Kamala talks about that too, about the fact that they felt like the whole party felt like it was a personal decision that Joe and his wife had to make when it shouldn't have been, because this affects the country and this affects so many people. So it shouldn't have been a personal decision. It should have been an establishment decision, or just
and who
just
was
in
the
general.
Person? And where was the person to have reminded him of that? Who was the person to have kept him humble in that way? That's my point. Is that there should have been somebody within his. I don't know if it should have been somebody in his cabinet. I don't know if it would have been a close family member who has also worked in politics. I don't know if it would have been one of his sons. Somebody should have been there to keep him humble enough to say, "Hey, you have solidified your legacy. Yeah. This is it."
Where's his day ones at? I mean, they probably don't got no more day ones. He's 80-something years old. Where the day ones at?
And that's my point. When you work in politics, I don't think there are no day ones. It's all politics. You can't have genuine relationships. Everybody needs a Michelle Obama.
Well, and speaking of Obama, I do remember hearing, and I don't know 100% how true this is, but I do remember hearing things in 2020 when Joe Biden ran that even Obama was kind of like, Joe, you maybe don't need to do this.
And Barack should have been the one that
he should have been the one. Yeah,
he should have been the one. That's your day one right there.
That's the closest thing you got to it. That's the closest thing you got to a day one.
Look, I don't know Joe Biden's life in and out, but if there was somebody to be a day one, I would think that Barack could be on that day one squad. Yeah. Okay, somebody who can humble and bring you in and be like, Joe, that Obama voice.
That's your Obama impression.
I can't do it well, but like somebody who could have like told him this ain't it.
This ain't it.
That we don't need to do this.
I hear you. One more thing I'll say about Kamala Harris before we move on is I'm seeing a lot about the fact that one of her stops for her book tour, she encountered some protests.
Yeah.
And they were protesters who were protesting against her connection with Israel and her whole involvement in basically what has happened to Gaza. And something me and you were talking about was the fact that we see a lot of people protesting Kamala, and there were a lot of people protesting Joe Biden and just Democrats in general because of their support of Israel. But you don't see, at least I feel like it's not documented as much, protests against Republicans and Donald Trump, who seem to be even more in support of Israel than even the Democratic Party. And it kind of calls into question. I remember one time a couple of months ago, I called that into question. I was like, some of these protests feel a little weird to me because you only target the left for something that the right does even more. So it's like, I guess I made the allegation, I'll say, and I'm going to catch some flack for this, but I made the allegation that some of these protests were kind of helping Republicans more than they were hurting Democrats, and that maybe there was even some possible coordination behind that. And I got roasted. I mean, every liberal.
Where you posted that at? On TikTok?
I was on Threads. I think I was on Threads, which I had to get off Threads. But they said, you don't know what you're talking about. The Democrats are committing genocide, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, look, I agree with the protest. I'm just saying you never do them against Trump. And Trump is literally working with Netanyahu. He's working with Israel to try to literally clear Gaza out. And so it's like, I don't see an equal distribution of that sort of thing with the protests. But I know we were talking about it, and I feel like you had made an interesting point about what was Kamala's role even in all of that, because as VP, it's not like she was the one really making the decisions to arm Israel and things like that. And I personally do believe that she did not take a strong enough stance of just being able to say like, hey, what's happening in Gaza is wrong. Israel went too far, and we can still support them while also taking the Palestinian plight more into consideration. Like, I feel like she didn't do really anything to reach out to that community, and that's the reason why that community went so hard against her, even though, again, Trump was an objectively worse choice for them.
Yeah, so right now I don't feel comfortable saying that Kamala and Democrats are the only person who are being protested right now. I know I've seen clips of Donald Trump being protested in some public places.
I've seen that. Sure.
But also, I think that it is more more of a stark or more of a viral moment to protest Kamala because one is it's a continuation of what was done while she was campaigning. We saw those protests happening while she was on the campaign trail. But also she has not outright denounced what the United States is doing to the people in Gaza. And so, but she's kind of teetered that line where she's like saying, oh, my heart breaks for the people in Gaza. I would want to stop the war. You know, she's playing both sides essentially.
Yeah.
And so I think that it is more, it creates more of a moment for people to record those protests and to have those protests seen and heard by her.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You feel like it's just a more visible thing, more so than it's happening more than what's going on with Republicans.
Partially, yeah. I mean, I question everything right now because I think there's a lot in the world that the media is not covering.
Sure.
And I think there's a lot of media that is being suppressed right now. So I cannot say definitively that this is happening to one side versus the other.
Yeah. No, of course. I definitely think people are protesting Trump and protesting Republicans. And I think you make a good point of just that maybe we're just seeing, especially with social media algorithms, maybe we're just seeing more of these protests against the left versus the things we're seeing from the right. And like you said, I do feel like we definitely are seeing less content on TikTok, on Instagram, on all these platforms that is going against Trump.
Yeah.
Like I've noticed that it seems like these tech companies are really bowing down and kissing the rings. And that's one thing I will kind of wrap around about. One of the things that Kamala Harris said, both in her book as well as in the interview with Rachel Maddow, that I really agreed with her on 100%, was how she felt like the guardrails that were supposed to be protecting us from all the crap that Trump is doing are all bending and basically failing. And I do agree with her on that 100% because we've been talking about that for weeks. We were just like, why is it that...
So you agree with her that you didn't see it happening the way that...
No, I did not think it was going to happen like this. I thought there would be more fight, more pushback against what Trump is doing, especially from like media companies and like tech companies.
I will say on that side, I think that's the part where I'm probably the most surprised at seeing the way that all these media conglomerates are working together to basically do whatever Trump wants. I will say this, and maybe I'm ignorant for assuming this, but I assumed that if anybody would have not been surprised, it would have been Kamala, because she understands and knows the inner workings of how the people on the right work and operate, and how down and dirty they get, and how some of these tech giants are willing to do whatever to make sure that they stay wealthy, because that's really what all this comes down to, is them making sure that they get to keep baby girl's boat or her yacht for her 18th birthday so she can go and tour the Mediterranean for her summer. You know, like you know, that's really what all this comes down to, is the rich staying rich and doing whatever they can to make sure that they don't lose a dime of their money. Yeah. So I guess I would have assumed that she would have known that. I also feel like parts of it, even though I don't think it's blatant, and you know, I have not read Project 2025, you know, from cover to cover. Okay, I've read excerpts of it, and I've scanned some chapters of the book, but it's kind of outlined in Project 2025. And Kamala let us know plenty of times that Project 2025 was indeed real, and that Trump is lying and saying that he has nothing to do with it. So that's another reason why I would think that she would have not been surprised around everything that's happening. But maybe she's more so surprised about how quickly it happened. Because I will say this, we are now, there have been plenty of reports that have said that, so what, Trump has been in office, 8 months now?
8 or 9 months.
8 months, okay. And so Project 2025 is about 50% rolled out. Like, we are living in Project 2025 right now. I will say, for me, I thought that there would have been a lot of things in place to ensure that Project 2025 would have not been rolled out so quickly. I thought that there would have been more. I would have thought the Supreme Court would have stopped some things. I would have thought some of these federal judges would have been able to stop some things. I thought that Congress, even though it is majority Republican, I thought that maybe, just maybe, you know, a handful of them will vote against this because it's inhumane. Like, I never would have thought that the big beautiful bill would have passed within the first 6 months of the presidency.
Yeah, the Republicans, that doesn't surprise me as much.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me. I was just hoping. Like, sometimes I just be like,
yeah,
surely y'all are not trying to strip people of their health care.
Yeah.
Surely you are not trying to make the rich richer, especially when a lot of your constituents are some of the poorest people in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Not surely y'all want people to be able to eat and have an education, right?
Have you met a Republican before?
Look, I really, and it's me, you know, there's one part of me that is like, y'all are some of the worst people and y'all really don't care about people and you show it in your actions every day. But when you see it in writing and you see what they're voting on, and when you have the conversation and you understand all the ins and outs, you understand the context, there's no question about it. But some of them are up there just collecting checks and not reading.
Yeah,
they just up there being loyalists. But you would just think, surely y'all are not this inhumane. Surely you care about your people back home, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, they don't.
Yeah, they
don't. And that's something I think we're learning. I think we're learning that in real time. I'll wrap it up with this question, because I think this was a great conversation about Kamala and her book. But from your takeaways, and I know we haven't fully read the book yet, but from your takeaways, one thing that I've been asking a lot of people is, do you feel like this loss was more on her or more on the party, the Democratic Party?
The party.
The party. And why would you say that?
I think first of all, it's hand in hand. I would say primarily the party, because they did not do what was necessary to make sure that Joe Biden knew that he should be going out, and that they needed to do a proper primary so that we could have the right candidate to beat Trump.
Yeah.
But I also feel like the party is the reason why Kamala Harris campaigned the way that she did. And I think that the party is also the reason why people viewed Kamala Harris as not a strong candidate against Trump. Against Trump. I don't know why I put a T there. Against Trump. So primarily I put it all on the Democrats. I feel like if Kamala really felt like she could be the politician she wanted to be, I think that we would have saw a different campaign. But I also just feel like at the end of the day, we could talk all day about the issues with the party, with Kamala, what she did or did not do in her few years as VP. Kamala was given the hardest task. The hardest task. We have not seen anybody else be able to do a campaign in this short amount of time in modern history, as we mentioned earlier. But we cannot erase the fact that on top of that challenge, she is still a Black woman. Yeah. Like, full stop.
Yeah.
Let's say that she would have been able to go to a proper primary. That would have worked against her anyway. Yeah. So I just think that we need to really understand what she was up against in its totality.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't be undermined at all.
Yeah. For a long time after the campaign, I think I blamed Kamala more just because I used to work in campaigning. So there were just things that I saw her do and just rallies, and I was just like, this isn't going to work.
But did you ever think that she was operating or doing what the party was wanting her to do?
And that's what I'm saying. My thoughts on that evolved over time.
Okay.
And listening to some of the stuff she's saying in this book, and also just different things that I'm hearing from different sources, I'm starting to see kind of like what you're saying, that there were things that she was probably forced to do, positions she was forced to take, and she probably wasn't able to run it the way she really wanted to run it. And
but did you think the same thing about her time as VP as well?
Oh yeah. She had no real control as VP over anything. So I mean,
and you didn't think that at any point that would translate over to her campaign as well?
Well, I thought that maybe when you're in the thick of a campaign, sometimes a candidate can rein in control of that. And I'm thinking if she puts the people in place that helped her get to the Senate, that helped her get to these previous positions, then maybe they'll outline something that's more adjusted for her speed. But obviously, it seems like that probably didn't happen for whatever reason. But this was a good conversation. I know you want me to go with you to the show with Kamala Harris coming.
Cory doesn't want to pay for the ticket. It is an expensive ticket. I'm not even going to try to front. It's an expensive ticket.
It's an expensive ticket. And I'm like, what is she going to say that I already don't know from the book? I can just read the book.
Well, and that's true. I think I will say this. I got caught up in the moment. Kamala Harris is my soror. So, of course, I would like to go see her. You also get a copy of the book with the ticket.
Oh, really?
Yes, you do. You get a copy of the
book. So basically, I'm paying that huge price you want me to pay just for the book.
No,
that's basically
for the book and to see her.
Okay.
And so, me and my line sisters, we kind of got caught up in the moment and wanted to see Soror Kamala. So, Yeah.
I'll see what I can do.
Okay.
That's
Cory.
all. That's all I'm gonna say.
That's fine.
We appreciate everybody for listening, and if you're watching this episode of Living in the Red, we appreciate it. Make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube page. Make sure you give us a rating if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple, wherever you're listening to it. Give us a rating if you like what you hear. If you don't like what you hear, then maybe don't give us a rating. But we appreciate everybody out there.
No, give us a rating.
Well, give us an individual rating. Kind of rate me versus Cody. Let's do it like that. I'm just kidding. No, don't do that. Don't do that. We appreciate everybody for listening. We'll see you guys next time.